Hello, this is my final interview project for entomology, biology of hope and belief. This is my friend Andy that I'm going to be interviewing. For reference, she's a fourth year health sciences major. So yeah, let's just jump into it. So first, what do you define as evolution? And can you give me some examples of how evolution could occur correctly and then also how that it could be misconstrued?
So evolution to me means that it's just species changing over time dependent on the environment that they're in. So like an example of that would be how in early days, I guess, the fish, whatever they were, the fish would lay their eggs on land because of the predators in the sea. So eventually they just grew legs and would start laying their eggs on the land and then living in the ocean. I would say some common misconceptions would be that mutations occur at random, I guess. Like they don't necessarily, because I would say they're mostly based on environmental factors. Like I don't just grow like a 6-finger out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Not that they can't occur naturally or at random too, because I know a lot of like current genetic disorders are stuff that does occur at random, but I would say evolution would not cover that portion of like gene mutation.
I like what you said about mutations. One thing I will say is that it's actually a common misconception that they are not random, when in reality, in the gene pool there might be random mutations that affect the population, but nature and the certain environment that they're in favors certain mutations, and that's why the gene pool slowly gets narrowed down because they are able to survive and reproduce because that trait that they have is favored. So yeah, can you tell me what you think about natural selection and your definition of that?
I guess that would be kind of similar to what you just said about how mutations occur at random. So, like, I want to say like, if a certain animal is like larger, then they would have more of like a predatory advantage against animals that are smaller. Or if like they are faster, like cheetahs or something, they would be able to survive more, I guess.
Yeah.
And I guess that would be stuff that would like technically occur at random, like in gene pools, and then they're obviously more likely to get like mates and stuff.
Yeah, great. So basically what you just said, natural selection is a direct mechanism of changing populations over time, and then that leaves them better suited to their environment over time. So cool. So we can move on. I have some questions for you about neurobiology. What do you know about neurons and how they communicate?
I know that neurons are, we have a lot of them. They are, there's a lot of them in the brain. We have our central nervous system and our peripheral nervous system. I know about the structures of the neurons, I guess, but I wouldn't really say I know like the actual biochemical factors that they engage in, I guess.
Okay, cool. I like how you talked about how the human nervous system was structured a bit, because that was actually something I was going to ask about next. But you know about the structure of neurons, which is great. How they communicate is actually via action potentials, and so an electrical signal is given to one. The dendrites collect that via chemical messengers like neurotransmitters, and then that causes the neuron to depolarize, and the electrical signal is sent down the axon, and then it comes out at the end. And then neurotransmitters are released into the synapse, signaling to the next neuron. So it's basically like a big network.
Very cool.
Yeah. So can you expand on what you're talking about, the human nervous system?
Like its structure? So I know we have our central nervous system, which is our brain and our spinal cord, and then we have our peripheral nervous system, which is our limbs, essentially. I know the peripheral nervous system comes off of your central nervous system, and those are all consisted of your parasympathetic nervous system and your sympathetic nervous system, but those are under your autonomic nervous system and your, I don't remember what the other one is called, but I know like the parasympathetic and sympathetic, that's like your fight, it's your rest and digest, and then fight or flight, and then your autonomic nervous system is what they're under, and the other one that I can't remember the name of is the one that is like what your muscles do and stuff, so that is like, oh gosh, can't think of the word, but that's like your actual actions that you actively think about versus like stuff that you just do automatically.
Awesome. That was great. Okay. The next section, what do you think of emotions like love and hope, and where do you think they originate?
I guess I always thought that love originated from the need to communicate, because humans are very, like, empathetic, I think is what, like animals, like they need to be compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
We always traveled in groups and stuff, and having that ability to be able to communicate is definitely part of love. And then love can also just be defined as like the the need to like have a mate and be able to reproduce, which is the goal of like every species.
Right.
So I would almost think it was an evolutionary thing, I guess, that love evolved because if you have more love for somebody, you're more likely to reproduce with them.
Right. And then, what do you think about hope?
I kind of think hope is like a survival mechanism almost. Like if you have no hope for anything, then you're not going to have the will to survive. But if you have hope to survive, you have more will to keep going. So like if we were, I don't know, hunters and gatherers, if you had hope that like life could be lived, then you would continue living.
Yeah, that was a really good point. I like how you like, tied it into evolution. I want to go back to what you said about how animals also experience love. Do you think that non-human animals can have hope? And
I guess
why?
I never thought about that, but I would think that they could have hope too, because I feel like if they don't have hope, what else would they have? Like I know at the same time we're also very intelligent animals, and it's hard to like understand what the other animals, non-human animals, I guess, are thinking about. But I would think that they would have hope.
Yeah, so it's actually like a really common misconception that people assume, oh, they're animals, so intelligence-wise, like they're below humans, so they must not feel emotions like love and hope because you should intellectually be at a certain level in order to feel those feelings. There's actually an experiment with scrub jays, which is kind of a bird, and they did an experiment and they found that they have extreme grief for their loved ones when they die. So they did an experiment and they used like blue sticks and an actual dead jay, and the group would actually start screaming when they saw the dead jay with the blue sticks. They didn't elicit such a strong reaction.
Wow,
So
that's sad.
yeah, and there are also lots of examples of like learned helplessness, like mice when you put them in water. If they're domesticated mice and they know that they have the ability to be rescued, they will continue to swim because they have hope that they will survive. So
That's very
lots
interesting.
of cool examples of non-human animals. So finally, what effect does music have on you in both the short term and the long term?
I like to go to the gym, and when I go to the gym, if I don't listen to music, my workouts will not be nearly as good. Like if I go to the gym, my headphones are dead, but I don't want to walk all the way home. Like my workouts always suck, and I can never lift as heavy as I want to, and I run really slow. So I would think that would be like a short-term thing. Like I need music to work out, and then in the long term, I guess it kind of affects the way I remember certain situations. So if I like listen to a song constantly at a specific period in my life that I would like never experience again. So like in high school, if I listened to this one song for the entire summer, that summer, then every time I listen to the song, it like takes me back to that moment. Like I feel like it helps me associate memories.
God, interesting. Okay, so we have 1 minute, so we're going to speed a little on the
Okay,
last two
we're
questions.
speeding.
But based on the information we've discussed, what do you think is occurring in your brain and body when you're exposed to music? And like think kind of like neurobiology, where we were talking about with neurons earlier.
I guess I would think that they okay, repeat the question, because
I think like in terms of like sensory information, how do you think your neurons are reacting?
oh, well, I would feel like they would be excited anyway because they are the things that perceive our like senses, all of them. Like, as your cochlear nerve is the one that's gonna sense all of the music, so it'd be sending it to my brain, which would then send it maybe through like some emotional center, because you know, depending on the type of music I listen to, it would make me feel a certain type of way. Not sure why, probably because of my brain. And then that would just like, if I'm working out or whatever, send stuff down to my body, like making me remember a certain thing. Like make me feel alive.
Right.